And so, as we're looking at this data, Scott, would love to hear more from you about, where was the greatest need for ARS originally, and how has that evolved over time?
Yeah, I think it's a good point to kind of follow our journey, right? So I mentioned that 5, 6 years ago, I was a part of a developmental process. And as we continued to do growth planning over the 6 to 12 months with MDA, we also started to wonder to ourselves, how could we better select on the front end for our key roles? And as we put through so many leaders through the developmental process, was there a better way to help us avoid the mistakes on the front end, right? And so we started to ask MDA to partner with us on the data we had and to really help us understand. We gave them some data and information regarding, top performers, financial, turnover, all those metrics. And we started to see some variance, right? And we started to see that certain competencies became more important than other competencies for success. And so we started to say, hey, how can we take this and customize a little bit of the front end business simulation, one, so that when a candidate comes in, they understand what the job looks like, right? I find a lot of candidates say, well, what's the day in the life, right? And so we tailored the business simulations to be a little bit more of a day in the life. You're going to deal with an angry customer. You're going to deal with an angry manager. We want to put them in a little bit of those stressful environments to see how they react. And so the simulations got a little bit more customized. And then we were able to start honing in like where our focus was. What were the most important competencies? In an industry like HVAC and plumbing, you would think that business acumen is like the number one thing. You need to understand how a furnace or air conditioner works to be successful. But we started to see our most successful leaders knew nothing about heating and cooling, right? They were just really good with people and really good at leading. Now, don't get me wrong, our technicians and our plumbers, they are they have a large degree of business acumen, but at the leadership level of a business, it was a little bit more about people, and MDA really helped us shape that. And that's how we created this customized assessment with MDA.
Yeah, that's great. And so because, like you said, this role was so pivotal at ARS, we, like you said, worked to develop these business simulations that really mirrored a day in the life. We have these 3 different options for them. So kind of throwing a bunch of data at them and asking them to make decisions through that analysis and planning assignment, and then meeting with different members of their team, right? To have some of those conversations. And I think it's important too to just mention that clearly you have found some value, and we'll talk more about this custom process too, and kind of how we got to this data here in just a minute. But I think it's important to outline here too that most of the clients that we work with do utilize MDA's standard business simulations, and often they are going to be different based on the leadership level. So we really tailor it to the leadership level. But there are times like this where we do work with an organization to develop a custom business simulation because there is a specific need for that. So just want to call that out as well. Anything else you want to say on that, Scott?
No, it's been a great help for us. And it's really made me a better leader, right? Because I can start to work with even people that we don't put through the assessments, and I can start to say, hey, you need to work on this, or you need to work on this, because I know it's important for them as they want to develop in our business.
That's great. And maybe we can talk on the next slide about just highlighting a little bit more about how we got there, how we came to realize that there were specific competencies that we really wanted to make sure to get at through the process.
Yeah, and as you can see, a drive for results is a huge factor for us. Resilience, the ability to come back from setbacks, having a little bit of confidence in yourself. Critical thinking was one that was, for us, deductive reasoning. Our leaders have to make decisions. They have to make them quick, right? You think about the air conditioner's out, the plumbing's broke. They have to make really quick decisions, and they have to do that with not a lot of facts. And these are just some of the things that we started to say, wow, as I'm doing interviewing, I probably wouldn't have thought critical thinking or, planning and organizing were as much as important as experience, business acumen. And so they really helped us process through the data to make a better impact on the hiring side.
Right. And then we used this to really shape the output of the assessment, which we're going to look at next here. And so on this next slide, we're going to see that there are different sections and sort of little snippets of what you might see in a report. Right. And so what you see at the top here is that we have a scale, and we are really thinking about, again, what are the candidates' strengths and development needs and their overall profile and style, and how does that fit in with the GM role and those requirements and the context for what ARS needs at this time for this leader. And so we have them on a fit scale from low to strong fit. So again, not a pass or fail test, but really what is the fit for this role at this time. And then below, we have just a kind of a quick snapshot with those competency results where we're showing that we would have a table of all of the different ratings, and the competencies would be listed. There's just those top three that you've highlighted, Scott, that are really most important. And then a candidate would be rated from development need up to clear strength. What else do you want to say about how you really use this?
Yeah, again, this is just a data point in the selection process, right? And they're giving us a gauge on the strength of the candidates, right? That we're then balancing with our own internal interview process. I believe, Kimberly and Megan, this is very similar layout to what other leading leaders and some of the other assessments that you guys provide. And so it's just giving you a scale. And really below kind of resilience is probably another 10 or 15 other competencies that you're getting your candidate scored on. And it really just gives you the ability to see, hey, how are their strengths maybe playing off opportunities? Maybe they're really strong in one area and maybe not in the other, but your business has something set up to help people in that area. Maybe your business doesn't. And so that's going to be a risk factor. But again, you're giving us a likelihood. And if we go back again, earlier in the presentation, our job as leaders is to avoid risk in culture and avoid risk financially. This kind of guide here is really helpful for us. And then we take this to continue the interview, right? So there's a few other pages that come with this. And one of the pages I love is the watch outs. Like, hey, I would dig in here. I would ask some more questions here. These are some things that, as we met with the candidate, that we would be watching out for. And so it really gives you that. And then again, if you make those hiring decisions, like what are some of the safeguards you put in place to compensate for if you knew where a leader was going to struggle before you hired them, if you decided to hire them, you could put some of those things in place to really help them be successful because you knew where they were going to have problems.
Exactly. That's such a great way to utilize this tool. And again, something that's often discussed in detail on that organizational post call.